Thank you for joining us once again on the State of Freedom.
The State of Freedom is a listener-supported podcast. We're committed to pursuing the truth about policymaking, regulatory actions, and political maneuvers in Louisiana and at the national level that stand to impact your freedoms.
Please support the State of Freedom by becoming a monthly supporter or member of the Warrior Circle, or by advertising your business, your nonprofit, or your event with us. Go to freedomstate.us. We are bypassing the mainstream media cartel and the establishment political parties in Louisiana and coming directly to you, spreading the uncensored voice of freedom across Louisiana and beyond. Red Zeppelin is the best kept secret, but because of us, it's really not a secret anymore. Anybody who has not been to Red Zeppelin on Perkins Road in Baton Rouge, you're truly missing out. The best environment, the best service, and the best pizza in the state of Louisiana. Go to Red Zeppelin today. Tell them the State of Freedom sent you.
Good morning. Welcome to the State of Freedom. Artificial intelligence is moving faster than almost any technology we've ever seen. Companies and governments are racing to build data centers that will power our future. But how many of us have stopped to ask who made these decisions and what that will mean for the people living next door? What happens when thousands of acres are needed? When communities say they weren't even part of the conversation? When questions are raised about private property rights, energy, water, and the long-term impact on the places we call home? Innovation matters. Dominance in AI matters for national security, but so do people. And today we are joined by Cathy Latham of Humans First to ask a simple question with enormous consequences. Is it time to put humans first? She thinks so, and she is leading a nationwide protest against AI data centers this weekend. Before we bring on Cathy, I just want to remind y'all who we are. I'm Danielle Walker, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host, the watchdog-in-chief of Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, Chris Alexander, and we are coming to y'all live, as always, on Voice of the People USA TV and radio network on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. Please take a moment. Hit the thumbs up button, share this with your friends. If you're watching on Facebook, give us a star. You can also catch us later on our audio-only podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcast. And please, if you haven't yet, join the Warrior Circle. Membership has its perks, and you will get the inside scoop, be on the inside track there. So we would love to have you do that. You can join us there at join.freedomstate.us.
Calling all warriors, Dan.
That's right. I like that. I like that. Good morning, Cathy. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are y'all?
Awesome. We're excellent. Back in the saddle. Chris and I took off last week for a much-needed break from podcasting, and we've only tended to do that once a year at Christmas. So it was, anyway, we were both pretty beat down, so it was a good break from the show, but we're really happy to be back, and I did miss it a little bit.
Danielle, I have to say I honestly, look, I'll just, in full disclosure, I did miss you, okay? All right, it's the only time I'm going to say it, okay?
All right.
I did miss you.
Okay, I won't demand any further concessions.
Well, I'm going to need a vacation after this weekend, so I
Yes, you will.
You will, but I'll tell you what, it's really, really good what you're doing, and we'll get into it. I'm just excited for you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
And for us.
Let me get into the scripture of the day before we get going too quickly, and it is 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verses 14 through 18, and this has just been stirring in my heart for the last couple of days, and it says this: don't continue to team up with unbelievers in mismatched alliances. For what partnership is there between righteousness and rebellion? Who could mingle light with darkness? What harmony can there be between Christ and Satan? Or what does a believer have in common with an unbeliever? What friendship does God's temple have with demons? For indeed, we are the temple of the living God. Just as God said, I will make my home in them and walk among them. I will be their God, and they will be my people. For this reason, come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord. Touch nothing that is unclean, and I will embrace you. I will be a true father to you, and you will be my beloved sons and daughters, says the Lord Yahweh Almighty. And this is a time to be very clear on where we stand and who we choose to align ourselves with. I was thinking about that this weekend. You know, the bar for our alignment is not a brand name, Republican or Democrat, Baptist, Protestant, white, black, Hispanic. The bar is Jesus Christ. He is the plumb line. We cannot simply say that we're part of whatever group, whatever label, whatever identity, and say that's the direction. They're going to set the direction for where I go. No. What does the Lord say? He is the standard. His word lays out the standard. So if the calls for unity that you may be hearing, if some of these, I've been hearing calls for unity lately here in Louisiana, and those rings have been pretty hollow in my ears. And if you feel the same way, I think it's because we cannot partner with those who are not first partnered with the Lord, those who are not led by the Lord. We cannot make a brand name or an identity the source of our unity. Christ alone is the one who should unify us. He is the only one capable of setting a direction for us that will lead to success. We have to be joined in unity together under his leadership, and partnering in a path forward with those who are not submitted to Jesus is a recipe for failure. So that is my admonition for those of you who may be hearing that call. You know, have y'all, Chris, you know exactly what I'm
I
talking
know,
about. These
I
calls
know
for
the
unity.
illusion.
It's
I
just,
absolutely know the illusion, Danielle, and I'll be honest with you here. It's specious uh, when we become very confused, or you invite confusion with regard to what we are unifying over, what we are unifying about.
yeah,
And I am all for unity, certainly all for the principle of Ronald Reagan, who said, the 80-20 rule. If you agree with others,
sure.
80% of the time in politics, it's a good thing you move forward. And the perfect is sometimes the enemy of the good in politics. But you cannot compromise on core principles. You cannot compromise on core values.
Yeah,
And unity, when you're unifying but prostituting core principles at the altar of unity, it means nothing. And it's actually destructive
yeah,
because it renders those who are trying to set the standard, it confuses people about what we stand for, what we represent, and what we believe in. So unity, absolutely, but not at the cost of principle. And there are times when we absolutely have to stand for principle. Thomas Jefferson, Danielle, said that, in matters of taste, we can swim like a fish. In matters of principle, we stand firm like a rock. And that is
that's
what
good.
Jefferson said. And I've always believed that. And so I understand what you're saying exactly. And we are set apart, and we invite people, and we shine the light and invite people to join us on that front. Speaking, Danielle, of shining the light, Cathy Latham, Texas Director for Humans First, is at the absolute tip of the spear on these data centers that are expanding across the country, very often being executed and implemented behind closed doors in secret with little or no transparency, no accountability. This is not constitutional government. And here to talk about it is Cathy Latham. We're so happy to have you with us today, Cathy.
Well, thank you. Hoping my internet's connection will be solid. So
Kathy,
can y'all hear me right now?
your internet's cutting out a little bit. Try one more time, and
There
then
we
if
go.
it,
Is
okay,
is it back on now?
yeah,
Okay.
much better.
Yeah. I live in rural Texas, so pray the Lord on that, but yet I suffer with internet. So that's the caveat to that. I know these data centers are promising us strong internet, but I would much rather have my rural land than strong internet. So
Kathy, to be
yeah.
honest with you, I would rather read your lips than have anything be erected in my community without my consent and the full knowledge of the people. I'll become a lip reader before I consent to that. So, yeah, just to
Yeah.
compliment what you're saying there.
So I apologize for if it's going out. I apologize, and I will keep talking as long as I need to. I will
Okay.
keep talking as long as I need to. So anyway, um, yeah,
So, how did
these
you get
NDAs.
Kathy? How did I want to ask you this to just at the start here,
Mhm.
just to frame the issue for our viewers here. So you have two fundamental issues. One is what they are doing, and the substantive issues with regard to our health, our water, and our energy. The
Mhm.
substance of what they're doing. But an equally, if not even more grave issue is the way in which they are doing it, which is without full transparency behind the backs of the people pursuant to these non disclosure agreements. As John F. Kennedy said, secrecy kills freedom, secrecy kills democracy, particularly government secrecy.
Right.
And so, how did you first learn about this issue of these non disclosure agreements, and how did you get involved in this originally?
Well, I first got involved because my passion is short, and
Kathy, the connection is really rough. Maybe would you mind if we booted you out and you came back? We can try that. See if it
let's
helps.
do that.
Sometimes it
Yes, let's do
helps.
that.
Yeah. All right. Sorry
I'll go
about
back
that.
in and
Okay.
come back. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Perfect. All right.
Humans first.
Well, I'm trying. Well, I don't know. There's just some tech issues, so hopefully we can
Well,
get that
while
sorted.
while we're waiting, Danielle,
Yeah.
we can certainly mention that this weekend, July 18th, is a big national protest against these AI data centers, and I think is gaining a lot of steam. And Miss Latham is again organizing this and making sure that everybody is aware of it. I just can't think of anything that's more sinister than the idea that our government would be using our tax dollars and implementing policy that affects everyone on such a fundamental level and not let anybody know about it. So, Kathy, if you can hear me,
Yes,
very curious to know how you originally got involved in this and why this became such concern to you and your group.
yeah. Well, we are first AI safety, and my passion is storing for future systems.
Kathy, we can't hear it. We can't understand anything you're saying.
We're
What if,
working
why
on.
don't we do this? Can you just call me? I'll put you,
Do I
I,
need?
w- let me, I'm going to give you a call on my cell phone and we'll have you patched in that way.
That'll be fine. That'll be
Okay.
fine. Turn my phone on. I turned it on.
Bear with us,
We'll stop.
folks. Bear
And
with
I
us.
just had a son who came in from out of town after a week, Danielle, Eli, and he is coming upstairs saying, "Mommy, mommy, mommy."
Chris,
Oh,
seriously.
sorry. So if y'all could, sorry. So if y'all could hear that in the background, just wanted to let you know that that's just one of our sons who made his way back home.
Yeah.
On.
All right. I'll boot out Kathy and
Okay.
then I will give her a call. All right. Sorry, Chris. That was exceedingly loud in my
Oh, I'm
ears.
very, very sorry. I was
Yeah.
just trying to emulate exactly the rattling that I experienced
Yeah.
as he was running up the stairs. Sorry about that.
Yeah. 1 second. It's just going to take me a little second to find her number. Oh, you know what? I think I do have
No
her
problem.
number.
And I may have it too if you need it.
No, I got it.
Yeah, no problem.
Here we go.
It's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting, though, Danielle, when you begin to see the people really begin to wake up.
It's true.
You know,
Hello.
Hey, Kathy.
Hey, I'm here.
All right. Beautiful. We got you loud and clear now.
Good. Then
Uh,
they don't have to look at my ugly mug.
oh,
There you
as
go.
if you
I
are
wouldn't say
you are
that.
absolutely beautiful.
I'm not going to say that, Kathy. There are
Oh,
some people who absolutely have a face for radio, but you are not one of them. Okay,
That's right.
I'm going to tell you that you're
oh,
not
well,
one of them.
thank you.
But
Thank
anyway,
y'all.
just start from if you would, to my original question
Sure.
there about how how you got
Yes.
involved in this and then the concern it is for you.
hmm Well, first it was AI safety, and my passion is children, and so they brought me on to work with curriculum, homeschoolers, and school systems and state legislatures to protect kids. But then we started realizing as we started digging in, these data centers were a problem. And of course, I live here in Texas, and then all of a sudden, all these proposed data centers started popping up around us. I live near Waco.
Okay.
So I started getting in with some of these groups here, trying to figure out what was going on. And like, because of my background, your viewers may or listeners may not know this, but I was involved in Georgia politics for a while and got involved with Fonnie Willis. She arrested me, et cetera, and I was doing election integrity. So I know how the ropes behind doing open records requests, et cetera. So I suggested we started digging into open records requests with these in these communities, and we started finding out that these data center builders, the companies that are building these data centers, they had greased the wheels with these communities, these school systems and stuff up to a year before anybody knew anything was going on. And it wasn't until the permitting started that people started finding out what was going on. And then everything shut down because of NDAs. And we're like, why do you have to have an NDA if something is good?
Right.
What are you hiding? And when you start hiding stuff, for example, in election integrity, when you start hiding what you're doing with voting, et cetera, it makes everybody go, what's going on?
Exactly.
And so it's the secrecy, it's the darkness, it's that evil that we talk about that everybody's like, what is going on? So there we go.
Yeah.
And so the more we dug into it, it all becomes nefarious.
It's so nefarious. And are you seeing, so you're there in Texas, but are you seeing some patterns like what you're seeing in Texas across the country with regard to how these
Everywhere.
things are popping up?
Yes, we're hearing the same stories over and over again. Our county commissioners, our city commissioners won't talk to us because of an NDA. They secretly were buying this land. Or we'll hear from people like, I've been offered this, but they've told me if I do it, I have to sign an NDA, etc. And I have a wonderful story about this one guy. I was at the Texas Republican Convention last month, and it was very quiet. They were in session stuff. This guy came up to me, and he says, my family has been offered generational wealth for our ranch. And I just kind of looked at him, and he says, our ranch has been in the family so long that the original deed was signed by Sam Houston when it was still the Republic of Texas.
Wow.
And he says the money they're offering us will change the life of our family for generations. And I said, are they asking you to do an NDA? And he said, yes. And I said, if your family decides to do this, and I stopped him. I said, are you a Christian? And he said, yes, ma'am, I am. I said, what does the Bible say about being a good neighbor? And what does the Bible say about being stewards of the land? And you could see his face just drop. And I said, you owe it to your neighbors. If you as a family decide to do this, you owe it to your neighbors to tell them what's going on. Don't let them find out when they start moving the dirt or when they start cutting down the trees or whatever it is,
Wow.
But this is what they're doing.
So what did he do?
They are destroying.
So what did they do?
I don't know. I don't know. I wish I could meet up with this guy. This was a chance encounter that God laid on my heart to just share with him what he needed to do as a Christian.
Good for you.
Yeah.
But maybe it makes them stop to think that they need to be better stewards of the land that God has gifted. But we are hearing these stories state after state of them targeting rural America. And we're losing our farmland, we're losing our ranches, and then eventually we're going to lose our resources of clean air, clean water,
Yeah.
everything.
And
that
Kathy,
God
we're going to get in,
us,
we're going to get in tomorrow a little bit in the history of NDAs in Louisiana. Danielle and I are going to cover that in detail tomorrow on our podcast. And what we're talking about here, we're talking about agreements, private agreements between multi-billion-dollar corporations and state or local governments regarding the spending
Yeah.
of our money, the use of our property, and the development of projects that directly affect citizens. Why do you think it is, Cathy? Have you thought about this? Why do you think it is so important that they cloak this process in darkness? Why are these NDAs such an essential part of this?
Because they know they're doing something wrong. You don't ever do anything in the darkness unless it's wrong. I mean, that's the only thing I can ever think about, because if it's something that's good, you tell people about it, you share it, and then if one community did it and it benefited them, they would go out and scream, "Hey, y'all do this too. Look what we got." You don't see any community going out and championing what they have.
100%.
Yeah.
And do you happen to know, through your public records request and the research that you started doing once the alarm started going off in your mind, when the legislative groundwork for these NDAs started getting laid? Are those NDAs possible because of legislation? In Louisiana, that was the enabling factor for us, but maybe that
Well,
wasn't required in some other states.
I just think it's a standard practice with those organizations, those corporations and stuff, is they want full control. It's sort of like whoever controls the information controls the power.
Yeah.
And so if the corporation is controlling the information, they lock it down with an NDA, then they can filter out with their propaganda whatever they have to do. Because we're now seeing, I don't know if you're seeing it in Louisiana, but we're seeing it in Texas. The commercials now are pro data center, because they're seeing that the people don't want them, but the commercials are now on TV and radio and stuff talking about the benefits of data centers and all the jobs they're going to bring in and I'm like, what jobs?
Exactly.
The jobs are the construction.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The
And-
problem is, Cathy,
Yeah.
the thing is, they are flagrantly misrepresenting what the real reality of this. This is not going to bring long-term local jobs. Here in Louisiana,
No.
you mentioned Louisiana, I'll tell you that there are two statutes on the books in Louisiana, both passed in 2024, very closely, barely, that allow these NDAs to exist for up to 2 years. While these agreements are being negotiated and concluded. And by the time the people become aware of the details of these agreements, the dirt, as you said a couple of minutes ago, is already being laid. And so, I can't help but sit here and think that how are we supposed to be able to trust the government? And this is one of the things that we are continuing to harp on as one of our themes. How do you trust the government when they are doing these things behind your back? It's like, how can we ever believe that it's healthy and good for us if they don't even disclose to us what they're doing? It's like it's almost shocking that we would have a law in Louisiana now that even allows this.
And I might just add, Chris, there,
Yeah.
and then there's outrage from legislators or others that you are not just so thankful that they're doing this behind your back.
Exactly. And how many, Cathy,
And I mean-
would you say, or people have signed these NDAs in Texas, government officials?
I wish we knew, because it's hard to find out, because you will go to some of these commissioner meetings and people will ask them right out, "Did you sign an NDA?" And they just give a dead stare. And then you can, and I read people. I was a classroom teacher. You know how to read kids. You read people and you can see them hold their eyes down, or
Sure.
you can see the change in their face. You know when they're guilty. You know when they've done this. But I mean, here in Texas, it was planned. I mean, because in Texas, I don't know how often y'all's legislature meets, but in Texas, they only meet here every 2 years.
Yeah.
It was immediately after the last session, it went into full gear. It was almost like that was the green light for them to go.
Yeah. When was your
And it
last
just
session,
started-
Cathy?
It was at the end of this
26?
spring of this year.
Okay, this
Yes.
year. Okay.
Yeah. So it's legislation, Kathy,
No,
in
20,
Texas
no,
that
it
has
was, I'm
authorized
sorry, it
this.
was 25. It was
25.
25, and then
25.
it'll start up in 27. Yeah,
So
I'm
what
sorry.
year was the what year was the legislation passed in Texas, Kathy, that authorizes these NDAs? Or is there legislation on the books there now that
There is
authorizes
no
this?
legislation. There is no legislation that authorizes it. These are just individual NDAs that the communities are that they're signing. There is no legislation that says they have a right to do that because we have such strong property rights here in the state. Here's the unusual thing in the counties in Texas, if the cities have power, the counties have no power. The only thing the counties can do is permit for sewage or septic systems and road use.
Okay.
That's all they can do. And so so somebody told these data centers, this is what you do. You go into rural Texas and do it because they can't tell you no. They cannot tell you no.
Wow.
And then when they get the permit, the well permit, Texas has a right of capture. So they can drill into the aquifer and they can drain it. And you can't do anything about it. And some of our aquifers in Texas go into Louisiana.
Yeah.
So they're putting I saw one in Shreveport that they're going to do. There's one right over the border in Texas that they're doing. And all along in East Texas, they're going to drain the Louisiana aquifers as well. If they because in Texas they have right of capture. And you
And these
can't
county
stop
officials,
whatever you
Kathy, who
pull
are
out.
entering into this, these county officials who are entering these agreements are between these corporate entities and local government officials, right?
Correct. And these local government officials have the right to even refuse the abatements, but they don't. They give these tax abatements to these corporations, and these are billionaire companies. Why do they need a tax break? Because they're chasing the almighty dollar.
Yes.
And that's what they're doing. These corporations basically, to use a Christian phrase, they're worshiping at the foot of the dollar, you know?
Absolutely.
And that's
It's
what
amazing.
they're doing.
It's absolutely extraordinary, Kathy,
Yeah.
that you mentioned these multi-billion-dollar corporations can come in and yet they get all of these tax breaks as
Did
an
you know
incentive.
in Ohio, they gave them a $1 million tax break per job creation?
Are you kidding me?
No.
Oh my
And
goodness.
Georgia is set to lose $2.5 billion in just 2026 because Georgia passed a law to give them these tax rebates or abatements.
And it's complete
And
insanity. It's complete insanity. I mean,
Yeah.
so to me, Kathy, and it's hard to explain it or believe it any other way. I mean, either the people who are on the other end, the government officials who are on the other end of these NDAs, they're either corrupt and on the take, or they're just incredibly uninformed or easy to lie to, because where they're, like you said, the jobs are in construction. These are not permanent jobs. The jobs that are coming probably are not going to be prioritized to be from within the state. And
There's no requirement, Danielle. There is no requirement of that, for sure, what you just
That's
said.
right. I mean, let me tell you what's going on in Texas. You cannot find an electrician. If you want to wire your house right now, you cannot find an electrician. All the electricians have been hired by these data centers, and they're making like $250,000 a year to work to wire these data centers.
That's sick. That's
So
absolutely
what happens?
sick.
Yeah.
So what happens once these data centers are up and running? Once they're up and running, first of all, what happens to the jobs then? They don't need the jobs. I don't know exactly what type of manual personnel is required to run one of these huge data centers, but I can't imagine that it's that it would require a tremendous amount of on the ground labor to keep these things maintained.
20 to 30 people are needed, and that would be their 3 shifts. And it's just maintenance, basically, just making sure it runs. They'll have an HVAC person working. probably an electrician fixing things, and then they have general maintenance just going through. And so you're talking about for the average data center, maybe
Right.
20 people
20
in
people.
3 shifts.
And not
Yeah.
only that, Kathy, but the tax abatements mean what we were having a conversation this weekend about this very thing, that those tax abatements really what they amount to is the tax on the people, because
Yeah.
there's no money then to cover the cost of the fire trucks, the
Yeah.
fire station, all of the utilities. So
That's right.
it
Yeah.
it all gets
And these
put on
rural
our backs.
counties, yeah, the rural counties do not even have the equipment to fight a fire. These lithium batteries that if they catch on fire, et cetera, the standard operating procedure is let it burn. Then what do you do with all the pollution and stuff from those?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But here's the one thing that a lot of people don't think about, and I am an economist by trade, so I understand, a lot of some of the nuances going on. So I'm watching this one community that's just right outside of Waco, and they're getting a hyperscale data center. And they're talking about, number one, the housing boom this little town has. And I mean, it's a little bitty town with a little bitty school system
Mm-hmm.
that their wheels were greased a year before they came in. So we're talking about a housing boom. The little restaurant that's in the town, they're talking about, well, we only had to have one waitress. We're now going to have 3. So this town is going to experience for 2 to 3 years this huge boom of real estate, jobs, etc. And then when they're finished, it's going to collapse.
Yeah.
So all of these
Yes.
communities are going to experience a collapse. And then what's going to happen to the property values? These county commissioners, these counties, the state, all these school systems, they count on these revenues from property taxes. What are you going to do when these property taxes collapse, these
Wow.
values of these houses? Because you can't sell them. Nobody will buy a house that is near a data center.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're so right. And Kathy, what if you
So
have you talked to some of the national figures who may be able to weigh in on this? I know we've heard President Trump talk about AI being part of the narrative war, part of the digital war that we're in, and that the race to dominate in AI is a critical concern, because if we cede that territory, then it's going to be China. What's your response to that? Have you had any engagement on that issue?
I personally have not spoken on the national level. Our chair does. She
Okay.
does that all the time. She's always in DC. I've spoken to the Texas legislators. But I mean, here's the problem. I call bunk on it. If we are so scared of China and we want to beat China, then why are we selling them parts? And then why are we allowing them to put their parts in our
Yeah.
data centers? Because I listened to a guy speak one night, and I can't remember he's from a Texas group, but he was talking about if there's any component in these data centers or in the power stations that get built next to the data centers, if there's any component from China has a back door built into all their components. They would be able to shut down our water, our power, or whatever they need to. They will have a back door into our systems. So if we're so scared of China, why are we allowing their parts to be in these data centers?
And Kathy, you raise such an excellent point, because what you said makes me wonder if China is the driving force behind this in the very first instance.
Well, of course. I mean, I am one of the most conservative people you would ever meet. And I've been called a tool of China, because they say if you are against the data center build out, then China must be paying you. And I said, well, I have not received a paycheck from China. They haven't given me any money. They're not doing anything. I said, I am fighting on American principle and Christian principles to fight these data centers.
Yes. And if you
So,
really get to the nub of it, Kathy, it doesn't matter. I mean, obviously, there's every reason to be very skeptical about the long-term prospects of these data centers and the effects that it's going to have on the people. But really, the principle is that the government should not be doing anything anything involving our interests, our resources, our property, our kids and grandkids without our full consent, approval, and full transparency. That's the bottom line
Correct.
here. That is the sort of thing that
That's right.
kills freedom right there. And the idea that here in Louisiana, for instance, we would have had so many elected officials who've not only voted to enact and codify these NDAs, but actually many of whom have actually signed them,
Yeah.
is truly, truly alarming. It really is alarming. And I had
Yeah.
no idea until you mentioned it a few minutes ago that this has not even been codified in Texas. They're simply doing it.
That's right. And here's the other thing is during the primary that Texas had in March, Meta came in and gave several of the Republican legislators who are running for re-election money that went into their coffers.
Imagine.
So, and I went to one of the hearings where I even testified to Save Texas Water. And I was looking up there and I was like, yeah, 4 of those Republicans, because I knew it. And I'd already looked up how much they had taken in their money. And I'm like, 4 of the Republicans that were in that hearing had taken the Meta money.
Yeah.
But yet they were sitting there acting like, oh, yeah, we do have to save Texas Water. But everybody that was an invited guest was from Google, Meta, Amazon. That told me right then and there, they're already bought off.
Yeah.
They've already
100%.
sold their soul. They've already sold their
devil is
soul.
in the tent. The devil is in the tent for sure.
Yes.
And
Is there?
Cathy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Danielle.
Sorry, Chris.
No.
Are there lawsuits by the people against the state legislators or against these companies for what they're doing in secret? I would imagine you have a constitutional issue if those NDAs haven't been sanctioned.
Well, the problem is that, is getting the people in those communities and stuff to get those NDAs. Their lawsuit is with their local people, their
Okay.
local city council, their local county commissioners, etc. Now, because the Texas Republican Party put data centers and some of those things on the party platform, it will give the local parties the right to censure their representatives if they vote the wrong way.
Okay.
So during the next session, we may see the ugly head of the righteousness, you know what I mean, that line come out of the Republicans and go after those legislators who vote the wrong way. But I mean, I think the legislators are getting scared because they're seeing the people rise up and they're going, uh-oh, what have we done?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So it just
Have
all
your
depends,
governor or your
but
AG weighed in on this, Cathy? Your governor or your AG weighed in on this?
Well, our AG is Ken Paxton, and he's running for Senate. And I know that he's against some of the movement here. But Abbott, I believe he speaks out of both sides of his mouth. He's taken all this money from Meta, all this money from big tech, and all of that. But yet he posts that, oh, we've got to control the spread of AI. And then he says they got to bring in their own water and stuff. They're not bringing in their own water, because we know what they're doing. They're drilling for their water.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
We had a bill here. Last session by a very good conservative legislator that would have statutorily required all of these AI data centers to pay their own full infrastructure costs and would have prohibited them from offloading any of their energy or infrastructure costs onto Louisiana ratepayers in the form of increased electricity or utility bills. And that bill, sadly enough, was defeated. It was voluntarily deferred in the House Commerce Committee here. But we're continuing to raise this issue. What is, I'm sure that is also a concern of Texas citizens, that they're going to see an increase in their utility rates because of all this?
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, we're going to see all of this. Now they're telling us, oh no, we're going to add to the grid. We're going to add to the grid, but that's not what the numbers are saying. When you look at what they're going to take from us, I don't see how we're going to build up that fast. I don't see how you can build the grid up that fast.
That's
And,
exactly what
you know,
that's
it's-
exactly what they're saying here, Cathy. That's exactly what they are saying here. In
Yeah.
fact, that's exactly what the Public Service Commission and Rhino legislators here said in opposition to the bill that I just mentioned. We are already committed to making sure that they all pay their own costs and nothing can be offloaded. Well, and our position was, well, if that's the case, then what is your reluctance to having it codified in law? And yet they opposed that, which raises great suspicion
Oh, yeah, of course.
from me.
Yeah, because they want to go around it and through it and do it the way they want to. If these data center developers really cared about the American people, cared about the American way of life, there are other options where they could do these things. For example, you could put them out in the Gulf. The Gulf waters could cool them.
Exactly.
But guess what? If they put them in the Gulf, they don't get tax abatements because who would those kinds of things. If they're so important to national security, why aren't they on military bases?
Excellent point.
If it's so important to our national security, why don't you build these data centers on military bases so they can be protected? Because we know they're going to be a target if we're ever attacked. They already attacked some of our AI centers in Iran. They already attacked the US AI data centers there. So if that's the thing. They're talking out of both sides of their mouth. They don't make sense when they start spewing all this because there's other options.
Yes,
absolutely.
To do
and
these
shouldn't
things.
we be? And shouldn't we be foreclosing? And why would we be? Why would we have a relative open door policy with our biggest world adversary, China, when it comes to these projects, if they are so important for national security? It seems like there would be an iron wall foreclosing China off from any facet of this process or the development of these systems. But it seems like it's just the opposite.
Yeah. And why aren't they being put in industrial parks?
Right.
We have industrial parks all over, but they don't want to be where they can be regulated, because if in the state of Texas, they put them in the city has a vast regulatory, agency to control them. But I mean, I don't know if y'all saw the news report about SpaceX in McGregor, Texas, which is just the other side of Waco.
No. They
went over like 1.4 million gallons of water in this one reporting period over what their agreement was.
Oh
so the city slapped a fine on them. Well, they paid the fine and kept doing it.
Exactly.
Because the punishment is a slap on the wrist to these companies, because
it's not a deterrent.
Yeah. My thing would be, if I was the mayor of McGregor, Texas, I'd be like, we're going to cut your water off.
Exactly.
Because you went over. They would do it to us. If we had allotments or rations or whatever, they would cut it off of us. Why not cut it off of the industry?
And you might even get arrested if you were watering your lawn. I mean,
yeah,
it's just true.
Yeah, especially yeah, in a drought at time when they do the rationing, you could get a fine or a ticket or whatever.
Yeah.
But do they go after these data centers? No, they don't.
No.
So how are y'all, Cathy? How are you finding out about these NDAs? How are you discovering these NDAs that are in existence?
Because the community, the people that are protesting these are digging for them. They're using open records requests, et cetera, and finding it. And one of the ways we found it in one community is, I told them, I said, go to the school system. I said, just go to the school system and ask for their emails. And they said, really? I said, yeah, ask them. Because I'm not doing the open records requests. I just sometimes, counsel people. And they opened them and they said, oh my gosh, we found them. We found the NDA.
Wow.
And that's how we found out that this one company they went to this small school system and they said, hey, what are some things that y'all would like to have, but you don't have the budget for? And one of it was a new scoreboard for the football stadium.
My God. And
so
that's going on here, Danielle. Yeah. And that's going on here too.
Yeah. And so they get the schools behind them, and then they promise the school stuff. Like, oh, we'll buy y'all some computers, or we'll buy you this, or we'll get you this, and all this kind of stuff. They pretend to be a community partner, and they're not.
And the schools have no idea how much money they're giving up to get the little bit of money that they're getting.
Exactly.
Correct. And they don't realize the long-term effects of this.
Right.
If property values collapse,
You have nothing.
that school system is going to be, I'm sorry, they're screwed.
Yeah.
And
couldn't think of
Cathy, in
another
your
word for that.
view, there's no question in your view that property values will collapse if these huge data centers are going up in close proximity to private property.
Oh yeah.
There's no doubt
Well,
that it will.
yeah. And guess what? They're not going to be made to clean up when they vacate the data center. When those centers, become obsolete within 10 years and they vacate them, the community is stuck with the monstrosity.
Yeah.
And
100%.
and
And we've
we've even
seen that.
asked.
We've seen that with solar farms here. There's no mandate that they have to maintain anything. There's no mandate that
Mhm.
once, they realize that that's not going to power anything, that they have to pick it up. They
Yeah.
just abandon it, and it's just this huge
Yeah.
eyesore leaking toxic waste into the ground.
Yeah.
The wind turbines are the same way. I had a friend who's in oil and gas, and they have a ranch out just north of Hillsboro, and they got offered to put a wind turbine. Now she's in oil and gas, and she basically said no, but she read the contract. When they put those wind turbines in there, and then when they are obsolete, the landowner is responsible for removing the turbine.
Can you
Now,
imagine?
I don't know about you, so somebody needs to start learning how to take down wind turbines, because that's going to become a big job in the next 10
Yes.
years.
And Cathy, this
So,
does not only apply to data centers and wind turbines, it also applies to this carbon capture and sequestration.
hmm
The very, very strict limits that are being placed on the liability of the people who are doing this and any damage that may be caused to people or to property. On the one hand, they're executing these secret deals that allow them to implement these processes, and on the other hand, they're being exempted largely from liability for any damage that they may cause on the back end. So
yeah.
it's
Doesn't
really
it seem,
such an insult.
yeah,
It's such an
and,
insult.
and doesn't this seem, and I don't mean to open up this can of worms, but every time people start talking about this, doesn't this seem like the COVID vaccine too? Almost the same playbook,
There's
you know?
nothing you can do about
They,
it. It's good for you. Don't tell us that
yeah,
it's not. Trust your betters. Trust the experts. We're going to
yeah.
do this, and
But they
you need.
gave and they gave complete immunity to the vaccine manufacturers, to the doctors who gave it to them, etc.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And yet you're not allowed to question the process.
exactly.
Yes.
Just
And they
trust
get, of
us.
course,
Trust the
and they get,
government.
of course, all the tax breaks, right, Kathy? All the tax breaks as
Oh
well.
yeah, of course. Yeah. So I mean, this is just the next playbook.
It
So
is.
that they're doing.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Kathy, before we let you go, tell us about this protest this weekend and how people can get involved, where they can get involved in Louisiana, and what it's all about.
Okay. Well, we only have one protest going on in Louisiana, and it's your group that's called Save My Louisiana. And they just showed up on our map last night.
Great.
But you can go to www.July 18th protest, and that's protests.com.
Great.
And if there's a group in Louisiana that wants to protest, please sign up, and we will get you on the map. We have a whole toolkit for you to download. I'm holding a protest here in Waco, and we're just making handmade signs. We're standing on a corner on a sidewalk, waving American flags for about an hour, just showing that we don't want these data centers.
That's
And it's a
powerful.
simple protest. Yeah,
Very
just do it for an
powerful.
hour. Yeah,
And
First
fortunately,
Amendment
in the
rights.
United
Stand on
States
the
of America,
sidewalk.
because of enough fighters, you're still allowed to do that in our country. Thank God.
Yes,
Thank God.
that
I
we
want to
have
give a
our right.
Yes, we do. And I want to give a quick shout out to Gary Musgrove, Colonel Mark Guillory, and Robert Maddox at Save My Louisiana. Just a
Yes.
great, great organization here in Louisiana that we
Mhm.
support and follow. And they are,
Yes.
as we are at LeCag and at the State of Freedom here, 100% behind you and support you in your efforts on this.
Uh-huh.
It's very important that you know that.
Yes.
And you know what? If the truth were known, Kathy, and I think the truth is becoming increasingly known, thank God, many, many people across the country, if not a substantial majority of citizens, are behind you.
70%. That's what the polling is showing us. 70% of Americans do not support these data centers, especially the way they're coming about with the secret NDAs and stuff. And I want to ask your viewers, your listeners, anybody that has any contacts in Mississippi, we need Mississippi on board. They're sitting there going, no protest, no protest. And we need Mississippi on board.
Okay.
Because I don't want the whole South sitting here going, yes, we don't want these data centers.
Calling
So
Mississippi.
needs to get on.
Calling
Yes.
Mississippi. You know, Garth Brooks has a song, Calling Louisiana. Well, we're calling Mississippi on this issue. I did not realize, it doesn't surprise me, Cathy, but I didn't realize that it was 70%. And it's amazing how, you know, the only people who really don't oppose these types of things once they find out what they're all about are the politicians and the big corporate interests that are directly benefiting from them. But the average ordinary citizen always is opposed to this and really horrified by it. So, you know, what
Yes.
you're doing is so extraordinarily important.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. And God bless Texas, God bless Louisiana, and God bless the USA.
Amen. I couldn't say
Amen.
it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Cathy. We'll be
Thank
talking to
you.
you.
All right. Thank y'all.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, Chris. Well, I really enjoyed talking to her. I think they have got their finger on the pulse there, and I can't believe that there's not even enabling legislation for these NDAs in Texas. But you know what? That's probably exactly what would have happened in Louisiana if it had failed, based on what we're seeing, the way that this is progressing in Louisiana. Do you think that, Chris, that they would have just moved forward with impunity completely and
Of
totally?
course, yes, because I mean, the Louisiana Department of Economic Development was already exercising these NDAs on a small scale, but it was very narrowly defined, and it was really during the early stages of negotiations, so the proprietary secrets and that sort of thing couldn't be disclosed to competitors. So there is a place in a narrow, well-defined scope for NDAs. They simply would have expanded it on the agency level, Danielle, if we hadn't
Yeah.
passed it legislatively. But you know, the bill that authorized these types of NDAs on the local, you know, between corporations and local governments, barely passed. And we're going to get into this a lot tomorrow, I know, but it barely passed in the Senate. They had to have a revote on it because it failed the first time. But we're gonna get into all of that tomorrow. I am absolutely stunned, and I continue to be stunned, and maybe I'll become less stunned, that we would have government officials who purport to represent, a constitutional republic of, by, and for the people, accountable to the people. All of their power and authority comes from us. Be entering into these covert, secret deals. And we're not talking about secret deals, Danielle, about whether or not we're going to name a street after somebody. We're talking about secret deals that are of profound generational consequence, that they are concealing and hiding from the citizens. These NDAs, and I think the more people, this is something, Danielle, that every free citizen, everybody can get their arms around and understand. Your government is hiding things from you that directly affect you, and they're using your money and your resources and your property to do it. And that is what is so profoundly significant about what we're doing. And that's why focusing on these NDAs is so important.
And let this be a shot across the bow, Chris, and we will continue to have shots across the bow. If you are a legislator or a parish executive or official of any kind, and you are approached to sign an NDA for a potential economic development program, you need to really think hard before you sign that agreement, because I guarantee you there are groups across the state that are going to be doing public records requests and finding out every single one of your names, and they're going to be very, very unhappy. And I bet it's going to be really hard for you to seek reelection once that's uncovered. So let the record state this is not the side you want to be on. Do you want to be on the side of industry that's trying to completely steamroll our rural areas and communities, or do you want to be on the side of the people who put you there in the first place?
Absolutely, Danielle, and it's not just the public officials. I think I've heard, I don't know exactly. We're supposed to find out at some point that there are 50 or so public officials, elected officials in Louisiana who have signed these NDAs. Maybe more, but I think it's around 50. But it's not just the ones who've actually executed these agreements, Danielle. It's the elected officials in our legislature who voted to allow them in the first instance. And we're going to talk about the two bills from 2024 that statutorily authorized these NDAs. And we'll go back even more into the history of them. But believe you me, your names will be very well known to voters in your district come reelection. I can't think of anything, any issue, Danielle, that is more important than addressing the issue of this type of government secrecy. As John F. Kennedy said, Danielle, secrecy in government is absolutely repugnant to freedom. Freedom cannot survive within this context. If this is allowed to stand and this precedent is allowed to stand going forward, freedom will not survive, which
Yeah.
is exactly why it is so important that we bite the head off of this beast, and we will do so.
Yeah, and just a reminder, a couple of announcements, Chris. Tomorrow, Warrior Wednesday, we are going to be covering the NDAs, as Chris has mentioned. So if you are a member of the Warrior Circle, we have a new call-in line. Really exciting, the Freedom Phone, and we will be putting that phone number in a place where you can find it. And if you are not a member of the Warrior Circle and you want to be, please join today. You can do that at join.freedomstate.us for basically 10 bucks a month. And we would love for you to be part of the Warrior Circle, and you can call in on the Freedom Phone on Warrior Wednesdays whenever you join. So know that you have that option, and there are other perks of membership as well. So anyway, please join us there. And then one other announcement is we are supporting our friends Unauthorized. This is Matt Meck's organization. Let me just put this up here. They have a storm summit coming up on September 10th through the 13th in Las Vegas. This is going to be talking about arrests, honest elections, and honest money. It sounds very much like things that this audience is interested in. If you are interested in going, you can see it here. Stormsummit.us is the website. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to go as well. So if anyone wants to sponsor our travel to and from the event, please reach out to us. It's not cheap to go to Vegas. It's not cheap to stay in Vegas. So if you want to,
Is it cheap to gamble in Vegas?
I mean, I don't gamble, so it's very cheap for me. It's very cheap. I just like to eat. That's all.
There you go.
I'll eat
There
and
you
drink,
go.
and that's all I need to do in Las Vegas. But
Exactly.
anyway, all that to say, we want to support their event. I attended the Fraud Fighter Summit at the end of last month, or the end of last month, and it was excellent. It's a great gathering of patriots from across the country, like-minded people, believers, just salt of the earth people. So I know that if you are able to attend, you will love it. And if you send us, we will cover it for you there. All right.
Absolutely. And also just a final reminder here, Danielle, to not only support the state of freedom, because we are becoming the organ, the portal of conservative expression throughout Louisiana, and the information that you get here that is so vital to not only your individual security, but really the survival of our state and our country. You're only going to get it right here at the State of Freedom. You're not going to get it anywhere else, and it's so hugely important. Also, LCAG, the reason why you will know very, very soon exactly how your legislator voted on these non-disclosure agreements is because of the work that LCAG is doing, lacag.org. Otherwise, you probably would not know who the particular elected officials are who authorized and allow these secret agreements to take place in our state. The work we do is extraordinarily important, and we are battling giants in the state legislature, to say the least. So help us to level the playing field by becoming a member and a subscriber to LCAG, Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, lacag.org. We can use your support and use your help, and between the two groups, LCAG and the State of Freedom, Danielle, we are making and will continue to make a massive, massive difference for freedom in Louisiana.
Yeah, 100%, Chris. We absolutely will. And I look forward to continuing that drumbeat right here tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central. And the NDAs are going to start getting exposed right here.
Well, Katie came up with it, Danielle. It's secret deals and public steals, non-disclosure agreements. Are you okay with that? Y'all okay with that? I don't believe that there are a whole lot of Louisiana citizens who are okay with that. I do not believe so.
I don't think so either, Chris. Well, we'll hear from some warriors hopefully tomorrow who dial in and tell us whether or not they're okay with it. So we welcome that opportunity. All right, y'all. Well, God bless you all, and we will see you here tomorrow, 10 a.m. All right.
God bless you, Danielle.
God bless you. I will see you in the morning, sir. Let me find. Hold on. I gotta find. All my stuff is moved around. I'm sorry. Here we go. All right. Have a good one, folks. We love y'all.
Blanco Brothers has been in business in Louisiana for about 30 years now. I have personal experience with this company, and I know others who have as well. If you have a business or a home and you've got roofing, gutter, sheet metal issues at all, one number you need to know, and that's Blanco Brothers Construction. He will treat you right financially, and he will take very good care of you with regard to the quality of the service that he provides. I cannot recommend Blanco Brothers Construction more highly enough. Memorize the number 225-226-4222. Blanco Brothers Construction, the very best in the business. Tigerland Properties. These are licensed professional realtors in Louisiana, commercial, residential, investments, whatever you choose to do. These people, whether you're buying, whether you're selling, whether you want to invest, these people are the best in the business. They really are. Tigerland Properties. Mainly, they work in the Boot area of Louisiana, down in South Louisiana, but truly, you could not be in better hands if you're buying or selling commercial, residential, or investing than Tigerland Properties. I encourage you to call them 225-320-3004. You'll want to make sure you're in good hands with commercial, residential, real estate, or investment, and they are the best.
Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom. Any follow-up actions, resources, and links to our sponsors will be in the show notes. All calls to action can be taken at lacag.org. That's LACAG.org.
To learn more about our work, become a monthly subscriber, supporter, or advertiser at freedomstate.us. The State of Freedom.